In this video, we will learn about needs assessment, a fundamental step in the program design process. Here is the textbook's model of just some of the factors that influence training effectiveness. Both learning and transfer of training are required for training to be effective. We have to consider the characteristics of the trainees, the training environment, and the work environment. Learning outcomes help ensure that transfer of training outcomes are also reached. Before we develop a training program, we start with needs assessment to determine if training is even necessary. Remember, not all problems can be solved with training. In fact, most organizational issues will require several different interventions, training being just one of them. If it turns out that training is necessary, the needs assessment process can also help us identify the specific needs that need to be addressed. We need to identify the outcomes that we are expecting before we collect data so that we can choose the most appropriate data collection methods for our situation. Examples of outcomes of a needs assessment include who needs to learn, what do they need to learn, and what is the best way to teach them how to do this. The needs assessment process is actually 3 processes in one. It starts with organization analysis, and if training is necessary, continues with person analysis and task analysis. By collecting information from multiple sources and from multiple levels, we can ensure that any investments in training produce a positive return. When companies skip the needs assessment process, they essentially put their investment in training at risk. Through organizational analysis, we examine the business strategy, the support for training among managers, peers, potential trainees, and other stakeholders, and training resources. The goal is to determine if training is necessary, and if so, what kind of training. We don't need to identify the specific tasks, the specific KSAOs, the training content just yet. We will collect more details later on in the needs assessment process that will help us design the actual learning event. Through organizational analysis, we are trying to determine if we should invest time and money into a training program. We are trying to figure out whether it will meet the organization's needs. This process also helps us determine whether we are going to buy the training program from an external consultant or a vendor, or whether we're going to develop it in-house using the resources we have available. Some companies end up doing both, managing some aspects of training and development in-house and outsourcing other activities. Once we identify a training need through organizational analysis, we can continue the needs assessment process with person analysis. Person analysis is exactly what it sounds like. We try to understand the people of an organization. It involves an analysis of performance issues so we can be sure that training solutions actually work. We should consider how learning and performance are influenced by person characteristics, inputs and outputs, consequences, and feedback. What is the current status of each of these components, and what do we want them to look like in order to improve performance? Person analysis also involves the identification of who needs to be trained. Everyone, new hires, or maybe top-level leaders. This process relies on data from reviews of objective performance data from the appraisal process, information gathered from tests, assessments, assessment centers, work samples, and from interviews and focus groups with subject matter experts. These sources provide baseline data, information about where trainees stand today. Later, we would compare pre-training data to post-training data to see if any changes occurred. We then have ways of isolating training effects to determine if training was the source of any changes we identify. We are going to take a closer look at task analysis, the third and final component of the needs assessment process. Once an organization decides to invest in training, we can finally explore the content that employees need to learn. Here, a task refers to a specific work activity associated with a job, which is a specific position within a company that is made up of many tasks. Task analysis helps us identify all of the tasks that should be included in training, as well as the KSAOs that are required to complete each task. These tasks and person characteristics will eventually help us write the learning outcomes for the training program. In most situations, we should wait to analyze the task until we've analyzed the organization. The task analysis process relies on these sources: job descriptions, job specifications, if they are available, performance data, work sampling, interviews with job incumbents and other subject matter experts, reviews of the academic and professional literature related to the job or the task, internal analyses of operational problems, and data from task inventories that are commercially available or from ONET online. Remember that the goal of task analysis is to better understand the training need so that we can design a training program that addresses it.